cricket season is underway.
Yeah, and what seasons they were in both formats and at the race yesterday. But I think if there's any indication of from what we've seen there, this is going to be an amazing summer. A lot of talk already about more so about the Ashes, I guess, and I think everyone's felt that this Indian series might fly under the radar, but that never happens with India. We've seen the crowd numbers already, sellouts in Melbourne, and it's going to be a wonderful entree into what's going to be another huge summer on the back of last summer when India were here in their fullest.
We seem to say it every year, it can't get any bigger.
Yeah.
This time, is it true?
Well, last year, on every metric, it was record numbers, viewership, attendance, and as I say, that's what India do to the game of cricket. They stimulate it like no other country. But I think this year, just given the history and the heritage of the Ashes rivalry and the recent history between the two teams, I think we're going to see it really ignite into hopefully a classic series that we can all remember. And the best part, I think, is no one's quite sure who's going to win it. And that's all you hope for when you go to a sporting contest.
Adam, what's exciting you most about the Ashes series? What intrigued you?
In the battle of the fast bowling units, provided, obviously fitness and selection comes into it, but if we're able to get at some stage both bowling units fully fit and available for selection, I think that's going to be compelling viewing.
How concerned are you that Pat won't be there for the first test and maybe a few more?
Well, you don't take players of the calibre of Pat Cummins out of a team and not feel it. That's a given. Fortunately, Australia's had a ready-made replacement in the form of Scotty. I would assume that should Pat not be there, Scott will come in. So that's a nice backup plan, well and truly. So as I say, it would be a shame if Pat's not there. Same as if Jofra Archer's not there. You just want him out there and the best combatants going at it.
And what's your view at the top of the order, the battle for the opening spot with Kawaja, where you see Costas and has Labuschagne written his name back into the team?
Marnus is definitely in contention to be back into that test team. You keep hearing it every year, doesn't matter what nationality, what country, what year it is, currency is runs, and Marnus has put his hand up. In what position remains to be seen. I'm really not sure which way they're going to go. If there's one thing about this selection group, is they've always seemed to had an idea in their mind and just stuck with it. So what that idea is, we'll have to wait and see. But there's a few options there, and I think maybe after the West Indies, a lot of people had written Costas off, that maybe he's not the option, but I do think he's well and truly in the running still.
Marnus is open though?
He probably could play in either role. Technically, the requirements are very similar in regards to being able to leave the ball and occupy the crease. He's proven that he can do that, so it's an option.
Ravi, welcome.
Yep.
India's a new captain for this series in Shubman Gill, and obviously the team's coming off a pretty successful 12 months with the Champions Trophy. What do you expect from Shubman Gill and his teammates?
I think good side, very good side. India far better white ball side than a test match side, and especially the young guns. For Australian crowds, they love seeing some of the young players. Tilak Verma and Hardik Pandya, and a lot of the young players who are in the side. They will entertain, and plus the old dogs are here. There's Rohit Sharma, there's Virat Kohli, and they know that these youngsters are pushing them. So you might just see the best out of them. On this one.
Experienced players, do you see them still playing a part in 2027 in the World Cup?
That's why they're here. That's why they're here. They're part of the mix, but then again, form is crucial. But there's no substitute for experience when it comes to the big games, as we saw in the Champions Trophy. Come the big games, then the big boys step up. So it'll be interesting. And just to add to what Gilly said, I think for Australian crowds, this will be the best summer. India is just the appetizer before the Ashes. You'll see crowds. There'll be more bums on seats this year, over 4 months, than you've ever seen. Yes, last year was just a teaser. When you had the largest crowd in Melbourne since Bradman's side in 1936. I think the Barmy Army will be in full force, making a noise, trying to see if England can rattle Australia. Won't be easy.
Through the neutral lens, can you give us a tip how do you see the Ashes playing?
I think it'll be close, a lot closer than it has ever been, and depends on the two captains, fitness of the two captains. Stokes, because he's a leader. You know, more than a captain, I think he's a leader, and same with Pat. If both of them are fit, you mentioned Pat might not be fit for the first test, you know, that's a blow. There's no question about that. It allows England to come into that first test match and make a statement, you know, which often doesn't happen. That first test match dictates how the Ashes will go. Normally they run over at the Gabba, you know, so that first test is crucial.
You pick teams to come here and win away, and it's obviously one of the biggest challenges. Have England picked the right squad?
Yes, they've got the fast bowlers. You know, as Gilly mentioned, if Archer and Wood, you would want one of them to play all 5 tests. You know, in the 5 test matches, you've got to have pace. Archer or Wood, if both are there, nothing like it.
How important is having a good spinner in Australia?
Very important. Very important. And that's why they've gone for Bashir, because he'll get bounced. He's a tall man. I think Nathan Lyon plays a very crucial role. If Pat is not fit, you know, I see him being the leading wicket taker. You know, Josh is there, but I think Lino will bowl a lot, and they'll come after him. So that gives them a chance as well.
How much do you see the, I suppose, the edginess or the feistiness from 2 years ago hanging over this series? Zach Crawley made some comments overnight. Do you see that really adding theatrics?
Yes, I was there at Lord's, you know, when there was a little bit of noise made there. But, and I was asked, you know, what do you think? You know, I said, listen, no business to be outside of crease. The bails are out, it's out, you've got to go. So I think that doesn't die. You know, it will be brought up by the crowds or something. You know, there'll be some noise. There'll be noise early in the series, which is good. You need some spice. I come from a land of spice, so you need some spice.
Ravi, comparison is discussion out here and winning out here as a touring coach. Like, how important though is it that England do sort of go at Australia like verbally, mentally, and actually attack them a bit, because that seems to be.
I like that order because that's what we follow. Verbally, mentally, and then what did he say? Yeah. No, but you have to go verbally and mentally. You know, you got to, with Australia, you got to give it as good as you get, and you got to play hard because there's no shortcut. They'll come at you. You know, if you don't play in that fashion, they'll eat you up for breakfast. You know, so it's important. England, and I think England will come out initially with that mindset.
Adam, what do you think of bowling? So, because Pat Cummins is probably out of this and could do more, what it is for bowling? Like, you know, could this be a good opportunity to cement his spot?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's like that whole bowling unit. He's another year older. It's not like Boland could look at this and say he can start a 10-year career and cement a spot. He knows that. He's been around a long time, but an opportunity to play a full Ashes series may be on the cards for him. Every time he's had to step in at short notice, generally, save for the 23 Ashes, he's done a remarkable job. So that's a little challenge that he's obviously acknowledged, and he's thought a lot about what happened in England. I'm sure England already are making noises about how they got a hold of him there, but that makes for an intriguing battle because in Australian conditions he gets that bit more bounce, and that's really profitable for him. So, yeah, great opportunity should that be the case right from the outset. We'll have to wait and see.
And we lost Jordan Webster. Now, who do you think the villain number 1 will be on English side?
The villain? Stuart Broad. Yeah. Still. In that lineup, look, they're a team that play with great character. England, they've inherited that from their leaders. Ravi made the point about the captains of both teams being strong leaders, both being leaders that they get complete buy-in from their team in whatever they're asked to do and the way and the manner with which they go about it. So I think that's going to be wonderful to see unfold. I don't know that there's any one individual who will put their hand up and say they're taking on the villain role in the pantomime. I think they'll be collective units together. There's a lot of belief in both teams, so that's going to ignite it, and it's going to be enthralling viewing.
Gilly, might be a bit further down the line, but Big Bash, and some are saying it's the biggest signing of all time, Ravi Ashwin.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a comment from both of you. But your thoughts first, do you agree with that? And Ravi, what do we expect? The Ashwin impact, what can we expect this summer?
I think first time an Indian player is coming, so that itself is huge, and he's not any Indian player. He's someone who's taken over 600 wickets. He's, close to 600, and he loves playing here. So, and he wants to. I've just spoken to him. He's playing the whole Big Bash, so it'll be good.
What can we expect as the package though? 'Cause
No, don't leave your crease. He'll run you out. That's the first message. Don't try and steal a run because he'll take those bails off, and rightly so. You have no business to be outside your crease.
I reckon it's a wonderful signing. I love the fact that Ashwin himself has been so keen to come and be a part of it. And then what we can expect as viewers and fans, he's one of the great thinkers of the game. He's innovative. He's prepared to push the boundaries completely within the laws of the game. But he'll retire himself out as a batter if he needs to get someone else in there. Whatever's allowable within the confines of the rules, he's prepared to stretch it. And usually he will have thought about it in great detail before he does it. So a deep thinker, innovation, and I hope this is the first of many Indians that are allowed to eventually come and play in our leagues. In the way that we go and enjoy playing in their leagues, it's got to be better for the game. So, yeah, a really, really impressive signing, and well done Sydney Thunder for getting onto that.
He mentioned deep thinker. His nickname when I was the coach was the astronaut, because he's in space. Sometimes when he thinks, he's not on the same wavelength as the others. So he's got to explain it to the others.
Just on the Ashes front, I guess the last few summers that have plenty of the bowlers, perhaps more so than anything. Do you think England's batting lineup with their kind of more aggressive approach has anything to survive on these pitches?
I think some of the pitches that we've seen in the last few years, a very aggressive approach might be the best way to go. And I think that's what the mentality that they carry in general. So look at the way Travis Head's played. He often goes in really challenging conditions and just takes the game on. And I think that's the modern way. It's certainly the way that Brendan McCullum's encouraged his team to play. And I think over that period of his leadership and Stokes' leadership, they've started to find a really happy balance between that, put the foot down and then also allowing time of the game to just evolve. So that's positive signs for England. And that's the challenge for both batting lineups. If they're lively wickets, what the approach will be and how to go about it.
Is this
Yeah.
the ultimate test of Tasball? Is it the one that I would put to the bed or put it in?
No, I don't think so. I think it's. I don't know. Only they know themselves if they'll feel that should they not win the urn, if that puts paid to everything that's been said and written about it. It's just a style of cricket. There's been aggressive cricket teams in previous eras, so they're just a really positive team. But I think they're finding a much more happy balance with it now.
I think watching them this summer in England, I think they've got the right balances. The mix is right. You've not seen Harry Brook here. If he starts off well, he's exciting. He'll be the aggressor. But he's one guy who comes at number 5 there and will play his game.
Last question.
The importance of the two number fours. We talked about the bowling battle, but those two going up against each other.
Two number 4s. I think almost man for man, you go down the list, you can match up really important duels. I mean, the two number 7s are going to be vitally important to their team's success, both in front of the stumps and behind the stumps. So, but the number 4s, Smith, obviously huge reliance on Steve Smith over a long period of time. The Australian batting lineup last year was great signs. So you'd expect that he'll be pretty comfortable in these conditions that are so familiar. And then already the talks started, I noticed, from a few people about Joe Root and has he got the job done in Australia previously. Don't think he's ever won a test match in Australia I'm pretty sure. So that will be more in front of at the forefront of his mind than any individual numbers or stats. So, and I think he's already making those noises. So I don't think he'll be, being kept up at night by the fact that he hasn't scored that 100 here. It's more about that team buy-in for overall success, and I think they're making all the right noises in that regard, England. And as I say, Smith will be on his game for sure.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Have a good summer.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, really good.